Speaker, the phenomenon of attacks and intimidation of journalists is gaining notoriety in our republic. Data available to the Ministry of Information suggests that the trend is ascending. Increasingly, various actors in our society, state actors, non-state actors, political party operatives, assigns of businesses, and everyday citizens are resorting to attacks and intimidation of journalists as a means of expressing their displeasure. This is despite the fact that the freedom of the press is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the protection of those who contribute to the free flow of information should be of paramount importance to us all. Mr. Speaker, in 2012, the UN introduced a plan of action on the safety of journalists. It requires a multi-stakeholder approach involving all the actors of the global and country levels to comprehensively address the 3 Ps: prevention of violence against journalists, protection of journalists who are in danger, and prosecution of perpetrators. Also, the UN SDG 16 requires all countries to demonstrate progress in ensuring public access to information and protecting fundamental freedoms, which include the right to freedom of expression and the safety of journalists. The plan of action aims at creating a free and safe environment for journalists and media workers. Recommendation measures include, among other things, the establishment of a coordinated interagency mechanism to handle issues related to the safety of journalists, as well as assisting countries to develop legislation and mechanisms favorable to freedom of expression and information, and supporting their efforts to implement existing international rules and principles. Mr. Speaker, in line with this, the Ministry of Information of the Republic of Ghana first engaged with stakeholders of the media ecosystem in 2018 to design programs aimed at responding to challenges in the industry. The coordinated mechanism on the safety of journalists was birthed from that engagement. In collaboration with the National Media Commission, an office was established on the 4th of May 2021 to operate Ghana's mechanism under the leadership of the NMC. And Mr. Speaker, the mechanism for Ghana has 4 main parts. First, it requires regular advocacy and training of key actors, including journalists, security agencies, the judiciary, and the general public, on the need to uphold the safety of journalists. This also includes the steps journalists can take to protect themselves when conducting investigations or reporting in potentially violent scenarios such as riots, demonstrations, or conflict. Mr. Speaker, number 2, it requires investigation and validation of reports of attacks on journalists and media houses. Number 3, it requires a holding of the security agencies and the judicial service accountable for the prosecution and severe punishment of persons involved in the attack of journalists or media houses. And then number 4, the publication of an annual report on the safety of journalists and efforts to punish attacks on journalists. Right Honorable Speaker, the coordinated mechanism on the safety of journalists has chalked minimal success since its inception in Ghana. Under its advocacy function, the office conducted training sessions in 2019 for journalists starting from the Northern region. The Ministry of Information has also engaged the Judicial Service, advocating for severe punishment by the judiciary of persons who attack journalists and media houses. Among others, in 2022, the Ministry, in collaboration with UNESCO, organized a 3-day workshop with 25 judges on the freedom of expression and the safety of journalists in line with international norms and regional standards. Mr. Speaker, on the matter of investigation, the office was instrumental in investigating the attack on a CTFM journalist, Mr. Caleb Kuda. The report by the office determined that the handling of Mr. Kuda was excessive and unprofessional. Subsequently, the National Security Ministry dissolved the SWAT teams that operated under it and returned officers to their mother agencies. Other incidents of reported attacks on journalists have also been investigated by the office, with findings conveyed to security and prosecutorial agencies for action. Mr. Speaker, under the function of accountability, the mechanism has not been very successful, I regret to say. The need to hold the investigative, prosecutorial, and judicial agencies accountable for the incidents reported to them cannot be overemphasized. In some instances, the Ministry of Information has had to intervene and make direct reports ourselves to the Ghana Police Service, as well as demand accountability on the investigation, prosecution, and punishment of perpetrators. Holding the judiciary and prosecution accountable on a sustained basis must be the norm. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, permit me to make 3 requests which will help for greater success in operating this mechanism. Number 1, it will be helpful for Parliament to assist in holding the agencies accountable for the incidents that we have reported to them. And I call on members and this House to partner the National Media Commission in this effort. Number 2, closer collaboration among stakeholder groups in the public communication sector is required. As we have argued from the Ministry of Information, no single stakeholder group can successfully tackle this issue on its own. Greater collaboration and cooperation is what is required. And here, Mr. Speaker, I want to make special mention of your Committee on Communications for their support in this endeavor. Mr. Speaker, thirdly, the NMC requires more resources to succeed at implementing the mechanism. The Ministry of Information has supported with our limited resources, and we are grateful to some of our partners like UNESCO, who have also supported the NMC in this endeavor. But we urge more support from our development partners and from the central budget to the National Media Commission to be able to execute the mechanism effectively. If we do not support the constitutionally established Independent National Media Commission to implement this, all our talk and best intentions will be in vain. And I want to call on the Special Budget Committee of Parliament to advocate for more resources for the NMC to implement this. A well-funded mechanism is essential to provide the tools, the training, and support needed to enhance the security of our journalists as they carry out their vital roles in society. Mr. Speaker, as I take my seat, I want to make the point that the safety of journalists is not negotiable. Journalism is not a crime. It is a major national service necessary for the advancement of our democracy. We must invest more resources, we must advocate for more support, we must strengthen our collaboration and hold the police and judicial service accountable for the attacks that we have reported to them. These will go a long way to deepen our democracy and strengthen our society. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.